Hello everyone, and welcome back to Sakura Unboxing. So welcome to a different kind of video today. It's going to be actually sort of a figure opinions meme. So I saw recently that another figure unboxing YouTuber who goes by the name of Pakuchino, I believe. That's her name. I'll show the YouTube channel up here. And she recently did a sort of figure opinion meme video. And, I decided I kind of want to do it just to talk about, like, certain figures and whatnot. And this original template was made by Sithmalls on MFC. I did ask also for if I was allowed to do this for a video, and they said yes. So, of course, I will link that template in the description below for those who kind of want to fill it out for themselves. But, yeah, so I thought it'd be kind of fun to just go over some, like, opinions I have on some figures that I have or I don't have. So, yeah, without further ado, let us get started. So with this video, I will be doing some honorable mentions for some of these categories as well, just because, there's some figures that I want to point out that don't quite make this spot on the template. So now we'll be starting with the favorite figure I own, which is very tough because there's a bunch of figures that are absolutely gorgeous for one reason or another in my collection. So some quick honorable mentions. Two are from Good Small Art Shanghai, and those are the Wei Wuxian and Shi Lian figures. After that, both of these figures are by Reverse Studio, and those are the Longqi 1/7 figure, and the other one is the Beni Tengutake figure. And, I got her. I haven't done, obviously, a proper review on her, but all I can say is she's very adorable and very well done and detailed. So yeah, I really love Reverse Studio's work so far. And another one is the Mythos Witch Hag Lilith. So the last one I want to talk about before getting on to the winner for this spot, it is of course the last honorable mention. It is the Hazama 1/8 figure by Broccoli. Obviously I had to put a husbando on this, and I think Broccoli did a fantastic job of capturing his essence in figure form, and I think he just looks super cool. He's been a grail of mine for, pretty much since, I guess, beginning my figure collection, and I love him so much. So, yeah. But the favorite overall figure in my collection is one that is the one I paid the most amount of money for because I had to get her in the aftermarket, and that is the Caroline Yuri 1/4 Binding Bunny. So yeah, I do own that very expensive Binding Bunny. And oh boy, definitely a lot to pay for. I saved up for her, and thankfully someone on MFC had her. It was a lot, but I'll actually pick her up right now to show that, I do have this in my collection. So yeah, I hope I'm holding her okay, but oh my god. She's definitely very big. I feel like she's like a lot bigger compared to some of my other 1/4 Binding Bunnies. And I don't know, the pose, the colors, just everything. It's captured very well in this figure. I'm overall glad to have her in my collection. I think just all the details on her are fantastically done, and, gorgeous translation of the original illustration by Saki Yamama into figure form. I'm very excited to get the Mio Blue Binding Bunny to go with Caroline as well. I think they'd look fantastic together. So yeah, overall, I'm just happy that I have her now, to be honest, instead of having to wait like later when she's probably going to be, in the thousands for quite a long time. So yeah, that's pretty much like the favorite figure I own. Again, she's gorgeous. So yeah, that's going to take the first spot on this template. So now moving on to favorite figure I don't own. So I do have a bunch of honorable mentions in here. The first are the various Land of the Lustrous figures that I've seen that are just garage kits, and I'm pretty much hoping in the future that a manufacturer picks these up, hopefully with a second season of Land of the Lustrous that happens, so I can buy these because I would like a Land of the Lustrous shelf because it is one of my favorite series of all time. The next one is pretty much a draft that has been, stuck in production hell for a long time, and that is the first 4 figures Okami Waka figure. Waka being one of my husbandos, so of course I would love this figure in my collection. They're just taking their sweet time with it, so yeah. But when he does finally go up for pre-order, he is definitely going to be pre-ordered, even though he is most likely going to be a resin. If it's a husbando, I'll most likely pre-order the figure. After that, we have the Fate Grand Order Merlin figure by Altair. Really love Merlin's design, but I just don't have, the extra money to pay for this figure, and the shipping for it is quite expensive, and I think he has a pretty big box, so that's why I'm kind of waiting to order that figure of him. And now we are moving on to pretty much the figures that are going to be taking the spot. So it's actually going to be a tie because these two are grails currently, but they're just expensive in the aftermarket, and I'm pretty much hoping for re-releases from both. And the first one I'm going to be talking about is the Black Butler Book of Circus Undertaker Artifacts J 1/8 figure by Kotobukiya. So he has been released 3 times, and obviously this was before I was figure collecting, so his latest release was in 2019 at least on MFC, for 12,000 yen. And now he goes for $200 and over, and I don't want to pay that amount of money, so I'm basically hoping for a 4th re-release of this figure. Hopefully something new with like Black Butler, like a new Black Butler anime or something comes out, because I really want him in my collection. I love Undertaker's design, and of course, he's a long-haired boy, he's got a scythe, and it's like a match made in heaven for me, so yeah. Overall, just hoping for a re-release so I can get him at a reasonable price overall. And the last one that I'll be talking about is also by Kotobukiya, and that is the Witch Hat Atelier Coco and Brushbug 1/8 figure. So Witch Hat Atelier being a recent favorite manga series of mine that has an anime in production right now, and I really do love this Coco figure overall, and this was released back in 2020 for roughly 14,800 yen, which is fantastic for the overall quality and detail. So obviously this Coco figure is very expensive in the aftermarket. I haven't seen her for under 200 USD, so that's why I'm hoping for a re-release overall, just to get her for retail price. And I am hoping, of course, with the anime adaptation of Witch Hat Atelier that they do make figures of some of the other characters, because I really love the character designs in this series. So yeah, here's hoping to that overall. So obviously I'm mostly just hoping for re-releases of these two. Hopefully they do get some in the future. And yeah, so I would love to pick these up for obviously not over 200 USD, and obviously at a fairly reasonable price. So now we're moving on to favorite scale figure. So I pretty much think this one is kind of self-explanatory. It's still going to the Caroline Yuri for overall scale figures, but I thought I'd sort of subcategorize that by, of course, 1/8, 1/7, 1/6, and 1/4. So starting off with the 1/8, honorable mentions are going to the Phosphophilite figure by Good Small Company, the Hazama figure by Broccoli, and the Mythos Witch Hag Lilith by Mythos. But the definite top spot for this category is going to the Wei Wuxian figure by Good Small Art Shanghai. Gorgeously done and detailed. It definitely feels like a pretty big 1/8 figure, and I do really love him very much. Moving on to 1/7, which I feel like is like the majority of figures I have in my collection. So the honorable mentions are going to first the Hokusai figure by Good Small Company, and the last honorable mention for 1/7 are going to go to the Longqui figure by Reverse Studio. But definitely the top spot, of course, has to go to the Ji Lian figure by, of course, Good Small Art Shanghai. Again, long-haired boy, very gorgeously detailed and designed overall. So moving on to favorite 1/6, so some honorable mentions are going to the Miss Orangette figure by Native, the Dayu figure by Skytube, the Shiratama Komame figure by Native, and so that's pretty much the end of the honorable mentions for 1/6. And now pretty much I'd say my favorite 1/6 currently is definitely the Mauve figure by Rocket Boy. Of course, the Sweets theme definitely helps elevate her to this spot, and I think she came out absolutely gorgeous overall, and I love all of the chocolate details that she has. So yeah, pretty much my favorite 1/6 there. And quickly with 1/4, obviously Caroline Yuri is getting this spot, but some other honorable mentions for favorite 1/4, I'd say definitely second would have to be the X10 for how, probably one of my favorite freeing bunnies that has ever been made. And I guess another honorable mention would go to the Chris Aqua Blue bunny, because I really do like that design overall. But yeah, pretty much those are just my thoughts on some of my like subcategories, so I might list them at the bottom of the template as well to give you guys an idea. And yeah, so, but definitely in this spot for overall favorite scale figure, Caroline Yuri gets this spot. Now we're moving on to favorite prize figure. So I don't really have a lot of prize figures, but there is one that when I used to do some sort of online Japanese crane game machines that I got, and that would be the Vocaloid Hatsune Miku Haru Fuku version by Taito. So absolutely adorable. I really liked the way she came out overall, and yeah, super well done for a prize figure by Taito. And yeah, definitely my favorite overall prize figure. Now moving on to favorite Figma or Nendoroid. Now, I only really have two Figma, which are the Kaito and the Rengoku Figma, but I will be focusing, of course, on Nendoroids because that's what I have more of. So some quick honorable mentions are going to go towards the Amaterasu and Shiranui Nendoroids, because I do think animal Nendoroids are quite unique, and I really do like the accessories that those come with. And the other honorable mentions will go to the original Sakura Miku Nendoroid and the Sakura Miku Bloomed in Japan version, because I'm a sucker for Sakura, so I wanted to put those two on the list as well. And of course, the other one is the Maneki Miku Nendoroid for being absolutely adorable. So yeah, but this spot is going to the Hatsune Miku 15th Anniversary Nendoroid. I love all the little details that Good Smile managed to put onto this Nendoroid, because you know, there's a whole bunch that are on the original illustration that, you know, are a lot, and they managed to put pretty much like all of them onto this Nendoroid. And yeah, I overall really love the design. It does have sort of a sweet theme to it, which I really love. And yeah, so definitely, you know, one of my favorite Nendoroids in my collection so far. So now we are moving on to unpopular figure you like. So I feel like my opinion is going to be pretty unpopular, but I don't know, I just don't have as much hatred towards this figure as some other people do, and that would be the Demon Slayer Senjuro Rengoku Nendoroid. Now, I completely understand people's distaste for this Nendoroid. He's obviously a very minor character, and some people think that other Demon Slayer characters should have gotten this spot as a Nendoroid instead of him. Some people were saying that Genya should have gotten a Nendoroid, but for the most part, Good Smile Company seems to do Demon Slayer Nendoroids based on the anime release, so unfortunately we won't be seeing Genya for quite a while. So overall, you know, I do like the faceplates he comes with, and I would like to get him to go with my Kyojuro Nendoroid, but to be honest, he is up for pre-order right now, and I'm not too happy with the price. So on Good Smile's website, he's 6,500 yen, and I think that's pretty expensive, especially for what he comes with. And unfortunately, for some reason, Good Smile Company decided to make him a exclusive. So he's exclusive to the Good Smile Company website, and you can get him off of Nin Game actually, but he's going to be a little bit more expensive. So actually, I'm not going to pre-order this Nendoroid. So I'm hoping that once he releases, he does bin quite a bit, because I just don't really want to pay that price for this Nendoroid, because he's just lacking. I do think he's cute overall, and, you know, I just don't have as much hatred, I guess, towards it. I was like, oh, Senjuro's getting a Nendoroid. That's pretty cool. You know, I wasn't too upset with it, but I can definitely see other people's disdain for having him as a Nendoroid instead of someone else. So now moving on to popular figure you dislike. So I'm going to kind of stretch this one a little bit. I don't obviously dislike this figure fully, but I just have some things that are preventing me from picking this up. And I actually do have this figure pre-ordered, so I'm thinking of canceling it, and you know, I'll see how it goes. And that would be the Binding 1/4 Allison Fincher bunny. Now, I'll of course talk about what I like about this bunny, so definitely, I think the sculpt is obviously very well done overall, and I do like the head of this figure. That's probably my favorite part of this figure. I do like the bunny ears, the black and the pink I think looks very striking and nice, and the hair color I think is very well done, and she has very nice sort of rose clip of sorts in her hair. And yeah, I really like the head overall. So obviously moving on to some things that aren't my favorite for this figure. So obviously no shade to the artist. I'm just not a fan of the bunny suit, really. It's, you know, I like my sort of like colorful bunny suits. I'm not so into just like plain black and such. And the other one is that because of the way she's posed, you can see like her tail, the bunny tail, and my eyes like immediately shoot to that bunny tail, and I just don't like the way it looks, really. It's like tiny, it's like pink. I don't know if I would have preferred it to be white and such. But yeah, my eyes just immediately shoot to that bunny tail, and I don't know, for some reason I just can't look at it. I don't like the look of it. So yeah, I am, you know, everything else I think is fine about her, but just the bunny tail I feel like is like the main reason why I'm just like thinking, oh, should I go through with purchasing her at all? But I still, of course, have her locked in on pre-order, so my mind may or may not change. So we're just gonna have to see how that goes in the future. And I apologize if, like, I offended anybody with this, but that's just obviously, you know, my personal thoughts on this. So yeah, obviously, no shade again to the original artist for this character. I think, again, she's very well done. I just am not a fan of just certain things for my personal preferences for this type of binding bunny. So, I originally had this section of the video on camera, but I decided to do it off camera, and this is Good You Wish Would Be Made into a Figure. Now, I'm gonna keep this kind of short here because it's pretty much all about my husbandos, and originally I did talk over and I talked about each of them, and it took like over 10 minutes, so I'm just basically going to show you guys on camera of the characters in question, with their names and where they originate from. And obviously, as you can tell probably with the trend, a whole bunch of long-haired boys, and yeah, so there's obviously that one character trait I like about male like anime and manga characters. I also do kind of like older or middle-aged looking characters, so some of them you can kind of see that sort of look overall. And yeah, so overall these characters are pretty minor or not very popular, or you know, not from a popular series and such. And I don't know, at the end of the day, these characters just have a lot of sort of nostalgic and sentimental value to me in kind of a weird way. So yeah, I love their designs, personalities and such. And yeah, so, you know, I would like a 1 in a million chance for these guys to be figures, but that's most likely not going to happen. But I can dream, I can concept designs for them in figure form. And yeah, so it'd be pretty fun overall. So yes, these are, you know, pretty much my husbandos at the moment, and they're pretty much like characters I would love to be made into figures. Now we're going to be moving on to figure you like but you don't know the character. Now there's quite a bunch for this category because I love the figures that have come out for them, but I don't know the source material that they're from or anything about them. So we're going to be starting off with some quick honorable mentions. The first one is going to be the Aoba and Kojaku figure by Native, the very expensive 1/6 scale figure of these two. I don't know anything about Dramatical Murder or anything about these characters, but they're hot as hell, and that's why I want to pick them up, because these boys are going to be probably extremely expensive in the aftermarket, so I want to pick them for at least the price that they are at retail. So the next one that we have right here is the Princess Reconnect Redive Izumo Miyako 1/7 by Ribos. I love this design for this figure. The sweets theme definitely caught my eye, but I don't know anything about her. I know that Princess Reconnect, I think, is a mobile game, and it also kind of had a sort of anime adaptation. But yeah, the sweets theme, how adorable she looked, caught my eye, so that's why she's an honorable mention. After that, we have the Bomber Girl Aqua 1/7 Vampire Negligee version by Amakuni. Really love the design of this figure and how she looks overall. Don't know anything about Bomber Girl, but yeah, I really like the overall design for this figure. And lastly, we have the Grand Blue Fantasy Percival figure by Altair. Grand Blue Fantasy, I think, is a mobile game. It's also a fighting game, and I think it had an anime adaptation. But I saw this Percival figure, and I thought he looked fine as hell. So yeah, I think the armor design is fantastic. Altair in this case, do a fantastic job with their figures. And I actually did pre-order him, so I'm very much anticipating picking him up in 2024. I know he's supposed to release in 2023, but I picked him up off of Tokyo Otaku Mode, so I'm not going to get him until 2024. But I'd say definitely the one that is the winner of this category has to be the Master of Diabolism, Lan Wangji, I apologize if I butcher the name, and Wei Wuxin 1/8 Bu Xian version by Good Small Arts Shanghai. What can I say? This figure is absolutely gorgeous. I have not watched The Master of Diabolism. Yeah, so obviously I have to get onto that soon. I am waiting for, like, you know, I might watch a Japanese dubbed or English dubbed whenever that comes out. I don't know, I just couldn't really get into the original Chinese dub of it. So yeah, obviously I have to, you know, watch that to know more about these characters, but this figure is absolutely fantastic. It was an instant pre-order for me, even though it is quite expensive, but I am super excited to get this one in the future. Now moving on to figure you wish turned out well. So I'll give a quick honorable mention to actually the Kemono Jihen Kon 1/8 figure by Medicos Entertainment. And it's mostly because the base was a little bit sloppily done, I think. It kind of looks a little bit ugly. And also she did have some paint defects in some areas, and it was mostly with the black from the gloves on her hand onto her actual skin. And this figure also has to be kind of displayed at above eye level, or else, you know, you won't be able to see her face at all. And yeah, and I think I got her for, you know, I wish she was maybe less than what I originally purchased her for. So yeah, that's a little bit unfortunate for that one. But I'd say the first figure that came to mind that took this spot had to be the Hatsune Miku Tricker Miku. Now, I think it's, you know, I think it's a great figure overall, but you know, at least with mine, there are definitely some defects, you know, with the paint transferring from one area to an area where it's not supposed to be. The pigtails had kind of like a sort of weird gap to them of sorts, or miscoloring. And yeah, so the other thing also is that I thought she was going to be a lot bigger than she was, and yeah, she's a lot smaller than I thought she would be. And I'd say this was even with the first release of the figure. I mean, if I was to pre-order that when it first came out, is that I wish the base wasn't this ugly, like, beige sort of base with all these, like, sweets sticking out of it. Like, I would have liked to be, like, a mound of sweets. I think that would have been cool. It's definitely a lot more appealing than the beige base. So yeah, I really don't like that base at all. And I wish it was just differently designed. But obviously, you know, that's what was with the first release, but, you know, in terms of that, it was just mostly with paint defects and just size overall. So yeah, that Miku takes a spot. I apologize if you do like it, but there's just some things about it that I wish were different. So pretty much the next category we have here is character you don't get the hype for, and for me this was pretty obvious, and it has to be Rem from ReZero. Now, obviously there are some, like, gorgeous Rem figures out there, but I feel like it's just, the figure market is just so oversaturated with Rem figures, and I feel like I see one every week, and I literally, every time I see one, I go like this PVC could have been used towards another figure of a character who doesn't have a lot of figures, or heck, even towards a character who doesn't have the figure at all, but it had to go to another freaking Rem figure. Like, I don't know, it just kind of, you know, it irritates me a little bit. You know, I do think some of these Rem figure designs are great, but I feel like we just have to slow it down a little bit and give those materials to go towards another character who lacks figures or who doesn't have a figure at all. So now moving on to overpriced figure that was worth it. Now, I think I'm going to be going with aftermarket wise and not retail wise, because I feel like, you know, for the most part the figures I got in retail were reasonably priced so far in my collection. I mean, there might be one or so exception, but we're just gonna go with aftermarket for this one. So obviously I feel like, you know, Caroline Yuri I feel like would make this spot, but I feel like I want to give it to someone else, because Caroline Yuri, you know, I did pay like a lot for her, and, you know, maybe it really wasn't worth that price I paid. Like, I'm still happy to have her in my collection, but oh boy, was it definitely a lot of money to spend. So I'm actually going to give this one to another figure, by Native, and that is the Shira Tama Komame figure. It's a 1/6 figure, and obviously the whole sweets theme was there, and I did have to get this off of Yahoo Japan auctions, and let me tell you, this figure is very expensive in the aftermarket. It goes for like, I believe, $400, $500 plus dollars, and yeah, I got into probably one of the worst bidding wars I ever have gotten into, and I ended up paying over 500 USD for her. It wasn't pretty, but I really wanted this in my collection, you know, because when she came out, I was pretty much scrambling to find her, so I'll actually pick her up right here. So yeah, here she is. It's gonna be kind of hard to see just because, like, she's very, like, overexposed. But I absolutely love this figure so much. I think the whole Parfait theme is adorable. I really like the color scheme. It's kind of like, you know, pastel-like, but I just love all the details, and I think she looks adorable. Now, I do know some people might not like the whole cast-off feature for this figure, and it doesn't really bother me. I'd say, you know, it's okay to have the option, obviously, for this type of character. Maybe not so much. Like, the option is there, but at least they didn't, like, make her, like, completely nude or all that. But yeah, I love the design overall, and definitely pretty much one of my favorite figures in my Sweets themed collection. Next up, we have overpriced figure that isn't worth it. Now, I'm gonna quickly give two honorable mentions to figures that are, you know, I think are still in pre-order, but I just thought they were, in my opinion, ridiculously priced. And those have to go to the Power and Makima B-style figures. Now, they're around, I believe, 38,000 yen on AmiAmi, and honestly, I don't know why they're that expensive. Like, there's nothing about them design-wise that makes them that price tag, and I don't know, I just don't really like them that much, to be honest. Yeah, I just think they're, like, way too expensive. I don't know if Freeing just did that because it's Chainsaw Man, it's a popular series, and that's why they made them so expensive. But yeah, I'm just like, kind of like not really digging them for design-wise and price point-wise, so yeah, I, in my opinion, do not think that they are worth that price tag. So, I'm actually going to change it up for this section. There's another figure that recently went up for pre-order on AmiAmi that caught a lot of people's attention, has been a hot topic of controversy right now. And, you know, some people are on the positive side, but I feel like a majority are on the negative side. And I, myself, am on that sort of negative side and just am gonna bash this figure quite a bit. And that would be the Chainsaw Man Power and Makima Nurse version 1/7 figure by FNEX. So I believe FNEX is like Furyu's much more quality, quote-unquote, or higher-end figures of sorts, but my god, this pricing, when I saw it, is absurd. So, on AmiAmi, this figure is 54,010 yen, which is $406.78, which is absolutely absurd. It's basically, you know, if these were to be separate, that's like 200 USD per figure of these two, and, basically, I feel like that's absolutely not worth it from what I'm seeing in these pictures so far. I just feel like they don't look good, and it just doesn't feel like the look overall doesn't feel like it's that price tag overall. And, you know, I feel like I personally dodged a bullet with this, and I realized looking at these two, I'm not too into nurse figures either, so, you know, dodged a bullet on that one. So if you were to actually pre-order this figure, the best place to go is actually Tokyo Otaku Mode. They are doing a spring discount at the moment, and you know, you can use your Tom points. And for me at least, I believe it came out to around 356 USD. I'll have a picture up on screen with a screenshot. And yeah, so then that basically makes them then 180 something or so dollars each, but even then I still feel like they're not really worth that price. It really does suck to see just how much figure prices are just going up and crazy, and some companies think they can get away with this, and this figure has to be like the definition of it for me. So this is of course based off an original illustration by Tatsuki Fujimoto himself, and you know, I'd rather actually pick up like a sort of like art piece or like postcard of that original illustration compared to the figure itself, because I'm not spending that money at all. And overall, I just feel like, you know, it's just disgustingly overpriced at the end of the day. From the pictures I'm seeing, it just doesn't look like it's worth that amount. And additionally, the sizing of this figure, which I'll quickly go into. So this figure is 135 millimeters tall, which is 5.27 inches. So I literally just took out a ruler and sort of measured about where it might be. That feels pretty damn small to me. And I know that they're kneeling and such, but I don't know. I don't know how they're gonna look in person. You know, maybe someone, you know, if these get shown off at a figure festival, then we'll get a much better idea how they look next to some other figures. But I feel like that's pretty small for my tastes overall. And yeah, so in conclusion, I'm just on the negative side for this figure. I feel like it's just, you know, absurd how Furyu can think that they can get away with just pricing it like this. So yeah, interested to see when this figure releases in February of 2024, if it will live up to that price tag or if it will absolutely flop completely and just plummet in the aftermarket, which I hope is the case, because then some of us who did pre-order it can, you know, pick it up for hopefully a much more reasonable price. Now moving on to favorite figure line. Now, these are two recent lines of figures that I had to give them this spot because I really like both of these series so much, and those are the Mushroom Girls series of figures by Reverse Studio and the Sweet Themed Planet figures by Ribos. Now, they're actually made by the same artist, and yeah, I just think the designs are very well done, and I think they're pretty reasonably priced for all of the detail that's on them. So I am going to be picking up pretty much all of the figures from this series because I just really love the designs that much. And yeah, so I'm very excited to have these figures in my collection in the future because they are all absolutely adorable. So kind of segueing from that last category into this one, and that is favorite figure art or artist. Now, there's a bunch of figures that are based off of original artworks that I really love, and I'm going to give some quick honorable mentions to some artists. So there is Neko, who is doing the False Lander line of figures, whose designs I really enjoy. After that, we have, of course, Saki Amama, who did, of course, the Caroline Yuri Bunny and the upcoming Mio Blue Bunny. I really love how vibrant colors they use, and the designs are just absolutely gorgeous and stunning. Especially the details in the eyes, I think, are just so fantastically done. After that, we have Fuzi Choco, who has such gorgeous, gorgeous artwork, so amazingly detailed, and the backgrounds of their artwork is fantastic. They are coming out with the Ghost Ride figure, which I pre-ordered, which is very gorgeously designed and also very expensive, but I think it's a beautiful set piece overall. And now moving on to actually the winner of this spot, who is a recent artist whose artwork I really enjoy, and that would be Star Shadow Magic. That's what they go by on Twitter. I don't know, their art style is just so fantastic. They have some very beautiful character designs, some very cute character designs. So they are, of course, the original creator for the Mushroom Girls and the Sweet Themed Planet Girls. So cute overall, like I love their design so much. And they also did the Tea Time Cats line of figures, so I also want to pick up the Tea Time Cat line because, you know, I love that design for those characters overall. And yeah, just their art style is absolutely gorgeous. I guess some other figures I want to see of their art be made into figures are, of course, there's like this set of like Moth Girl figures, I believe. And the other one is sort of like Zodiac Girl designs, which I think are super cool. So yeah, I love their art style overall. I followed them on Twitter, so I'm very excited to see what other designs that they have will be turned into figures in the future. Now we have Figure You Won't Buy Again. Now, I do actually have some regret purchases. Some honorable mentions are going to the Spy X Family line of Nendoroids. They just didn't really excite me, and, you know, I wish that there was some, like, additions to them that would have make me want to keep them more. But thankfully I did sell them, and they have a pretty good home now, so I'm happy about that. But the main two figures that I want to put for this category are the Twisted Wonderland Leona and Riddle figures by Aniplex. So I was playing a little bit of Twisted Wonderland, and, you know, I thought the figures looked cool. You know, I do think they look cool overall, design-wise, but I really didn't get into Twisted Wonderland, and I do really like the character designs, but I feel like it's just not really my type of game, and so I'm like, oh, you know, I kept looking at the figures on my shelf, and I'm like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have bought them. Now, I guess if I were to collect anything of them, it would have to be the art card that goes with the figures that the figures are based off of. You know, I really like the artwork for that, which is going to be hard to find because people are just selling those with the figure. So yeah, I kind of regret picking up Riddle and Leona, and thankfully I did manage to sell those two to someone. And yeah, so, you know, as much as, you know, I do like the designs of this figure, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't pick them up again because I just don't have as strong as an attachment to Twisted Wonderland as some other people. I do like the character designs, but it's just not my type of game at the end of the day. So now we're moving on to figure you regret not buying. So this one I feel like was pretty obvious for me, and that would be the native Shiratama Komame figure. And I have a bit of a story for this one, if I remember it correctly, and pretty much I started figure collecting and I believe she went up for pre-order, and obviously off of the native website it's credit card only, and I think what happened was I didn't bother to look elsewhere for her, and you know, I didn't know about websites like Nin Game or Akimomo who sell native figures, and you know, I was like, and then I just couldn't find her, and then, you know, I didn't bother to look, and then, or I just forgot about her, and then obviously, like, 2 months or so before she was released, I was kind of, I saw her up again, and I'm like, oh, maybe I can find her somewhere else that has an open pre-order, and I couldn't find anything, and obviously I was like, oh, man, I want to get her for retail. So then, she pretty much popped up on Nin Game, like, I think someone canceled their order, and I had to run and get a sort of gift card with the money on it because it was like you pay up front with your card, and I don't think I could have paid with PayPal. I don't think it let me, and unfortunately I missed that too, and I was like, you know, I was kind of pissed about it. And yeah, so unfortunately it was to the aftermarket I went, and I ended up paying over 500 USD for her. It was an awful experience. Definitely one that I wish I could have bought at a retail price, and of course now I know about Nin Game or Akimomo where I can get these like native figures off of without having to use like a credit card. So yeah, definitely regret not actually taking the time to look at other websites to see if she had pre-orders open. Definitely a figure I regretted not buying at retail price. So next up on the list we have a figure that is perfect except for one thing. Now, immediately my mind went straight to this figure, and that is the Miss Orangette 1/6 figure by Native. Now, I love everything about this figure. I think the sculpt is gorgeous, the paintwork is very well done, and yeah, she's very, very pretty overall. My one biggest issue with this figure though is the metal rods that connect the skirt piece to like her belt part, I guess. Basically what happened when I was doing that is that it's kind of hard to put them together, and you pretty much have to use that sort of clear circular thing at the back and to kind of prop it up. And yeah, if you're not careful when moving this figure, like the whole thing could just like fall apart. I literally, when I have to take her off to the shelf to dust, I do kind of have to hold her by the waist where those two parts are, you know, making sure that, you know, the parts are connected, and just take her off, dust her, and then grab her by the waist again and put her back on the shelf. It's a little bit like, you know, stressful, and it's kind of tough to get those pieces flush together, and I accidentally kind of poked the metal part on the part of the skirt, and I accidentally rubbed some paint off, and actually one of the metal pegs did come off, and I did have to super glue it back on. So that was a big whole nightmare, and yeah, I try not to move that figure as much so that it won't come apart. So yeah, pretty much everything about her is gorgeous, it's just the whole metal rod system for her skirt is just kind of finicky and hard to keep all the way together for the figure. Now we're moving on to best face or hair sculpt. So I'll actually start off with the hair sculpt section. I will also do best face sculpt. So in terms of hair sculpt, I really do like, of course, I guess the winners for this spot are the Wei Wuxian and the Xi Lian figures by Good Smart Art Shanghai. Again, long-haired boys, I feel like they definitely win this spot because of that, you know, long-haired boys. if it's a gorgeous hair sculpt, which I think they both do have, it's definitely a winner for this spot. I'd also have to say the Mythos Witch Hag Lilith figure also. I do kind of like the way her hair kind of just drapes around like the bones of the figure. I think that one's also pretty cool as well, but I'm sorry, the long hair boys get the best hair sculpt spot. And in terms of best face sculpt, I would definitely have to say Caroline Yuri because of all the details in her eyes and just her overall expression with her tongue sticking out. I think is absolutely adorable. Because with Saki Yamama's like eye designs, there's a lot of detail in them and it's very well inputted into the figure itself. And I guess also I should also say like second place would also be like the Shion Binding Bunny. I really like her expression as well. The winking face is cute with the tongue sticking out, and yeah, very adorable face sculpt on her as well. So now the last category we have is the best color palette. Now, you know, there's a bunch of types of figure color palettes I like. I do like black and red, like the sort of sakura pink color, and I also do kind of like pastels a little bit as well. So I'll give some quick honorable mentions. The first one has to be the Wei Wuxian figure. Again, I like black and red. I think those look very, very gorgeous on that figure. The Shi Lian figure, because the pinks and his overall red, white, and gold color scheme look fantastic. The Saber Hokusai figure for all of the different patterns on her outfit. I think they look all fantastic overall. And then after that, I'd have to say the Longqi figure by Reverse Studio. I do like the red, yellow, and gold on her overall design. And now the last one for an honorable mention has to also be the Jataka of the Deer King by Mythos. I really love just the overall colors, the blues, the reds, and you even got like different colors on the leaves. It's very gorgeously designed by Mythos overall. And also, I would actually have to say also the Sakura Miku Nendroids that I have, I do like the overall pink color used for both of them, and I think it looks super cute on them. So yeah, definitely the figure though with my favorite color palette has to be the Shiratama Komame figure. I really like the pink, the white, and the green. And you also have some sort of tan colors and chocolate colors to this figure for the different suites. And I think it just looks so cute overall. So yeah, that's just, you know, my figure with my favorite color palette so far. So that overall completes this sort of figure opinions meme. I'll pop up the fully completed list right here. And yeah, so I'm curious what your guys' opinions are for each of the categories for this meme. And I'll of course leave the link in the description below where you can fill out this yourself. But yeah, it was kind of interesting to go through and just sort of look at my collection and just to see like, you know, my opinions on some of these categories for the figures I have or I don't have. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think and what your own figure opinions are. And so thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or night wherever you are, and take it easy. Goodbye.